Hi there, welcome to my video, and today I wanted to say something. You shouldn't say that. It's actually, I like Christians. How can you say that he likes Christians? Haven't you read the commentaries from far right? Yes, I've read the commentaries, but there I have one true story that happened to me when I was a student. At the time I was just able to play the violin, and I had an American fellow student who was also Jewish, but his family name, my family name, Evert, is not very Jewish, but his was really like Finkelteich, Kesselhaut, Milchteich, something like that. And we had been at the shoemaker's store, and they asked, on which name are the shoes? And he said, yeah, my name. And so an obvious Nazi. Oh, no, now talk bad about Nazis. Now my video won't be boosted on YouTube anymore. This one said, what's that for name? Yeah, this name. That's a Jewish name. Yes, I'm Jewish. But the Jews killed Jesus. And then he's totally off the plot sometimes, somewhere else, and said, because he remembered the Black Madonna, he said, yeah, but Jesus was black. And so Nazi said, in that case, yeah, and so forget it. Yeah, it had nothing to do with this question. I understood in that moment. Totally, totally not at all. So I, instead of going to a religious content and so on, justification, I don't convert, forget it, it's something totally different. I want to make understand what had been the histories, the resentments, where come they and actually from, and why actually these historic events are for me the reasons why how Christians behave today make me respect them very much. If you talk, yeah, but they had been so first, why are the Jews afraid of the cross? The cross had a totally different definition for us, because in the Roman Empire, which had 2 wars and one was world, for me it's 3 wars simply, killed many Jews always with crucifixion. They made only to make a point. Flavius wrote that they crucified every day 400 Jews in front of Jerusalem. Famous rabbis like Akiba, who had also as his main message, the main thing from Torah is love the other like yourself, and everything else is commentary. He was also crucified, and is a hero of mine. So can't say that I'm totally against the plot of the story, but. For me, simply, we think crucifixion, Romans, yeah. So, because we are a little bit, our historic context it's much longer than 2,000 years. So, but just so you know, it's nothing personal, nothing against the person you Christians consider as a reincarnation of God, I think. Yeah? So now my dogs are again angry. Hey, sorry. My dogs are getting crazy here. I have also the father of Fettuccine here. Don't have to show him. So, historically, everybody says, yeah, but the Christians have done the Inquisition and the Crusades. Okay, let's look at the Crusades. So, I'm born in Germany. I live in France. And France and Germany had been like, in our train, 800, had been the same thing. There has been Charlemagne, that the Germans call Karl der Große, because it's the same person. The Arab military conquest began. The Arab Empire got colonizing all of Africa, then to India, also went to Europe. For example, if I only go with France, it would be around 717 in France, where they already in 718 took Béziers, Agde, et Lodève, in 718 also Maguelone. And that when also that wasn't like we go there and take it. They were military campaigns. There were also only 3 military campaigns only to take Nîmes, 718, 1719, and 736. So in Narbonne, until they took it, was a 3-year campaign, and from 718 to 721, and then again in 2037, and another one in 759. Avignon, 737, Aquitaine, they took it at 730, and Carcassonne in 725, and in 732, they went. The Muslim forces went up to Bordeaux, Tours, and even Poitiers. So half of France was Islamic at that time. And then in the year 800, after all these military occurrences, then Charlemagne started to take back the territory of French people of Europe. So it was clearly a reaction. Some call this already the First Crusade. real crusade was because after the military campaigns went on from the Muslim side, if you don't know why, open your Quran and read Surah 9, it's there. Yeah? And so they started the first crusade where they said, okay, we don't only defend our country and the borders, but we go into the heartland of the aggressor. And this meant, and it was also, it needed a religious pretext. It was like liberating Jerusalem, because it has its, for Christians very important because Jesus was a Jew, and Jerusalem is the Jewish city. So in this first crusade, everybody who could afford an armor went there to defend the religion. And if you read then the commentary of the Pope Urban, how to conquer, it's a little bit like it's simply translated into Latin. Yeah, whatever sin you commit doesn't matter, count nothing because you're liberated for your faith. That exactly was what violent jihad is about. You don't believe me? Quran, Surah 9. The whole Surah is about that. Huh? The whole Surah 8 is only of spoils, how to take and so on. So you can read it. It's not a secret, and it's on the internet for free. And simply to know what the other believe before you judge, know what about. So, and now back to Christians. So when did the Crusades become anti-Jewish? Because it was first a reaction against the Muslim Empire, against Christian Empire. One wanted to counter the first stroke back. And there was simply, when everybody joined now the Crusades, there had been lots of lonely mistresses at home and there had been some cowards that stayed there because they thought, oh, it's too risky to fight. But there are now lots of single fancy women that can afford to take a shower, which was rare at the time, the Middle Ages, before the Middle Ages even. And one of them had been in Reinigen, in the Rhineland, in Count Emico. Count Emico was somebody who said, oh, yes, crusades, very funny, but I don't want to risk my... Okay, but I want now to be like a hero, like making like crusades. What can I do? Something that makes impression, but is risk-free. For example, I say, yeah, it's... Actually, they are only fighting against people that are not Christian, which is true about Muslims. And said, so I do the same inside. And now I will kill Jewish farmers, because Jewish farmers are low risk for somebody who's good armed. So, and exactly that he did. He killed everybody there and ran around to impress the ladies. And when the Crusaders already had been until Jerusalem, there he said, okay, in the last minute I joined, simply for my image. And there's also a letter from the church that said, no, you can't join because of a horrendous promiscuity in your row. So go figure. That was the moment when the Crusades turned bad against the Jews. It was not... The Crusades had been a reaction to until the last crusade, 7th crusade had been, and there had been at the same time 548 Muslim military campaigns. So yeah, it was cruel time, but it was not like crusade is to force convert. No, it's simply not in a reaction of attacks, and it only went bad if somebody wanted to seduce the lonely ladies of the Templars that had stayed at home. Later on, then from this came also in France, for example, in 1306, all Jews had been officially banned from France. Then Louis X recalled them back because they used also as asset, for example, for everything that they didn't want to travel themselves, they sent them. Unfortunately, also for slave market. That's why there had been in the second half of the 20th century, they came with the rumors that Jews are stealing women. No, it comes from the history that the Christians sold their women to the Islamic Empire as blonde virgins, and because they didn't want to go there to risk being, so they sent somebody else who is not so important in it. That have been normally minorities. Minorities have been the Jews. Actually, it would be against Judaism to participate in that, but somehow they found somebody who did this anyway. So then in 1394, Charles VI said, okay, now every Jew had also banned again, and there had been also several other, for example, he's called now Louis the Saint, who had wanted to fight the Medicis and wanted to finance that, and then he thought, okay, there I see Jesus mentioned in the Talmud. Not really, there is a Jesus that lived around 100 years about before the Christian Jesus, and another 200 years after the Christian years, and they are mentioned in the tractate which goes about high criminal profiles. And that had been two mass murderers that have been also condemned, but they are not the same person, even if they have the first name is the same thing. Like Adolf Rothschild and Adolf Hitler are different people. So Adolf Adam is a composer, Adolf Hitler was a dictator. Nothing to do, one of them, they have the same first name, but they're different persons. So, but he took that Louis XVI to say, okay, now we, in Wikipedia say, they burnt the Talmud. No, they burnt the Talmud with the owner, because they hoped that everybody must be, they had the rumors, everybody must be rich, and it turns out that as in every population, only a few people are rich. So they had been not big riches. So after that, he made a contract with the Moors, which had been also in Muslim Empire, and only they didn't stop afterwards. So in 1807, officially France acknowledged Judaism as one of the religions that originated in France, from when you can call it France, which is true because since the Rome occupied Israel, the first fled to Europe, and it was around the year 0 when Christians even started to exist, so it's the same time. And then had been in the family when the French had been colonizing the north of Africa, they offered the population there French citizenship under the condition to accept the French Constitution. And it meant that you should accept, instead of a religious court, also the court of the state, which is for Jews no problem, because the real Sanhedrin is only, there must be a temple, even because of there's since 2,000 years no temple anymore. We abolished death penalty, and with Rav Gershon Scholem, we abolished, it's totally forbidden. Polygamy is forbidden since over 1,000 years ago. I have to look it up how much exactly. So, and that every people are equal in front of the Jews, and non-Jews have the same value. So they could agree to that. In that time, the Muslim radical leaders couldn't accept that, for example, non-Muslim and the Muslim have the same value. Because of, look at the scripture, yeah? For example, Surah 98, verse 6, they are we Jews and the Christians are the worst of all creations. If somebody takes that's really like, the cookbook, okay, then he can't accept the French Constitution. That is why the Loi Crémieux, it's called after that, that the Jews could become full, have citizenship of France. And the reason why it was easier is because of a society that has majority Christians. When they divert from the state, the division between what we say, laïcité, that there is a division between state and church, which is actually since Moshe and Aaron. Where Aaron is for the temple and Moshe is for the judicative. There had been similar values, and there we have something that we often hear, Judeo-Christian values. This term came actually after the war in Concile in Lausanne, where they thought, oh, well, the converting a mission to all the Jews, it didn't work so well. Maybe we should have more positive approach after all the programs and so on. And therefore, you have to know for Christians it's very if you go, for example, in passages like Matthew chapter 29 verse 29, chapter 23, Jesus would only come back when every Jew becomes a Christian, only something like that. Then the incentive why it was so important that before missionating anywhere else it must be the Jews, and so. At that time, I know that the change when the Second Vatican Council of the Vatican declared that in the Bible the Jews are the Jews. Who knew? If you look now around, there are no inner crusade, there's also no Inquisition. Spanish Inquisition was with people like Thomas Torquemada that had been really cruel, but it doesn't exist anymore. So what happened? I mean, it's like, imagine that today, the head of Iran, the head of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Daesh, Islamic State, Saudi and Taliban all declare from today, we stop violent Islam. Totally. And then they do stop. like not for 1 year, for centuries. And that's exactly what the Christians did. And this is the point where I say we have as Jews teshuvah, which means answering, which means if somebody understands wrongdoing and is really sorry and corrects this is then he has a much higher status as he would have had if he never had an error. Simply because surmounting a wrong decision is much more difficult than never having the problem. And that's the point where I have quite why I like Christians, because when I hear, for example, in France, if I hear an accent, somebody is Creole, then I know, okay, Creole. He's black, he's from South Africa, he's Christian, he has the 10 Commandments, one of them is don't murder people. Safe. Sorry, a little bit, yeah, but actually it's that. So I know that there are some spicy texts, like we are the synagogue of Satan, something like that, mainly in Paulus letters, but most Christians go more in this figure of this Hanazri, the Nazareth, of this Jesus, which goes the next as itself. It's like a Rabbi Akiva. There also have been some other culture, but from the main basis, from the main moral compass, it's the same thing, the same understanding about culture. You have church and state. Judicative is not temple service. You have don't kill, don't steal. You have monogamy. You don't. Most Christians are against death penalty. So I'm personally for the most slowly execution, which is prison for life for somebody who had been also simply secured from the society. But okay, that's why I like Christians. And they have, of course, there have been some. I had also some strange people, but I know many Christians that really helped me very much, and that's why I like them.